All set.
And that's Richard.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm now going to call the Wednesday, March 26, 2025 meeting of the Norfolk County Commission to order. On Wednesday, March 29, 2023, Governor Healy signed into law Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act making appropriations for fiscal year 2023, which includes a 2-year extension of the option for public bodies to hold remote meetings by suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20. That action was effective immediately, extending the current option for remote meetings through March 31st, 2025. Thank you. I'm going to now ask everyone to join me in saluting the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Call the roll. Commissioner Stady.
I am present, sir.
Commissioner Collins.
Present.
Commissioner Shea is present. Number 3, no executive session today. Number 4, minutes of the March 5th, 2025 meeting, please.
Mr. Chairman, I've reviewed them. They look fine. I'll move approval as presented.
Joe, I wasn't there for that one, so you might want to second it.
2-0. I'll second the minutes of March 5th. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll abstain.
2-0 to 1. Okay. Number 5, appointments.
I think we can take Todd under public comment.
Okay. Todd, come up and sit in that chair there, Todd. The big seat.
Thank you.
So we're at a public comment now? Commissioner?
Well, there are no appointments, but
It's up to you.
no, we'll take Todd now. He's our appointment.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, this is an introduction. This is Todd Salamone, who is now Assistant Director of our Wallison Recreation Facility.
Oh,
He's also a greenskeeper,
nice to meet you.
and
You as well. Nice to meet you.
we're learning things this year because we replaced our golf pro and our assistant superintendent, so it's a big change. Kyle remains the superintendent. We're proud of our golf course. It's a long, long history. It was acquired by the county in 1976 when the original Wallison moved to Milton. And that's flourishing in Milton. When I was a kid, Wallison Golf Course is now Norfolk County. It was kind of a hoity-toity place. So we would go up there and try to get a job caddying. But I didn't get too many caddy jobs. I don't know why. But we're proud of it. We own it. Sometimes we wonder why, but we're happy with it and we're doing the best we can. But this year we got to do a lot of resumes, look around, and I might have Director Cronin make a comment that it was eye-opening process. We hadn't done this kind of hunting in several years. So I had dreams in late January that we wouldn't get open because we didn't have a golf pro and we didn't have a assistant superintendent, but all that's by the boards. The team did a great job. Michelle Labadini did a great job, and John did a great job. And we want to welcome you. We know you're working. I don't know if today is yesterday was your first day. It's not too sunny, so so this is just an introduction, and we're excited, and hopefully you are too. And we're ready to go, and I'm sure you are. So hello, and if you have any questions of us, we're here all the time, and we're here every Wednesday. And John and Bill will be working with you, and of course you'll work with Carl and the crew over there, Amy, and the part-timers, which are obviously elevating our golf weather, and then they dissipate and you go on in the winter. So that's our story, and we're sticking to it. We're committed to some changes. The problem is it costs a lot of money, and we're always working on it. But Carl does a good job of making us aware. We did for us a lot of work in the last couple of years. Now we're doing more on the tennis courts. We did the parking lot. We did a new tot land playground there with some help from the great general court. We got some money from the state, but we know the big one is a new irrigation system, and eventually a clubhouse, but we're doing the best we can. So, welcome, Todd. Do you have any ideas or questions for us?
At this time, no, just happy to be here. Happy to meet all of you. Happy to work at President's. Hopefully, see it continue to grow and improve.
A little bit of your background, where you came from.
So, originally from New York, I went to Ohio State, the Ohio State University, where I studied turf science. I have a bachelor's in turf, and I worked for many years in Long Island, and more recently in Connecticut, and now in Massachusetts. I was previously at the country club for 3 years, where I was an irrigation technician. But before that, I was a Class A superintendent in Connecticut. I love golf. I love my business. It's been a pleasure meeting the golfers the past 3 days, and I look forward to meeting more golfers, and with Sue, the new golf pro, and with Carl, who is great, has a wealth of knowledge about the business, has been very supportive, very kind in the 3 days that I've been working with him. But I think we'll be a good team. I think we'll do a lot of good this year and a lot of good in the next coming years. Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, any questions or
Yeah, real quick,
comments?
congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
Sounds like a great resume. You're very well qualified. What town do you live in now?
Quincy,
Quincy, Yorkwood, that's what I thought. All right. Well, welcome aboard.
thank you.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you often.
Commissioner.
John,
So just to wrap up, Todd was the recommended candidate that you've appointed previously. It was a long drawn out process. I think we interviewed a total of 4 to 6 candidates. One of the things that separated Todd was obviously his experience with his turf management, but his irrigation skills. Clearly, a golf course relies on that technology a lot, and we recognize the golf course needs that kind of investment going forward. Coupled with his strong customer service and work ethic, I think we have an excellent assistant superintendent going forward. We look forward to investing in him and the work that needs to be done at the golf course. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
okay. Last call.
Welcome aboard, Todd.
Welcome.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Best.
Thank you. Good
Stay well.
seeing you.
All right,
Take
Todd.
care. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Number
Nice to
6,
see you.
public
Okay, we'll see you
comment.
around, all right?
Each meeting, we have a section on our agenda for public comment, whether the person is in Zoom or in person. Now is the time to have any public comment. So if you're going out in Zoom land for public comment, now is the time. Director Cronin, do you have anyone for public comment?
No, sir.
Last call for public comment. Okay, moving along, number 7, old business. I have no old business. John, do we have any old business?
No, sir.
Okay, number 7, old business is gone. Number 8, personnel matters for consideration. Commissioner Stady.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have several. First, at the Wollaston Recreational Facility, I'll make a motion to approve the notice of rehire Thomas Ford of Quincy as a seasonal golf associate at the rate stated effective date 3/27/25. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. And the second at the Wollaston Recreational Facility is move approval of notice of contingent appointment of Stephen Luke of Quincy. Hope that's right. Seasonal golf associate, rate stated effective 3/27/25. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
It is a vote. Next.
At the Norfolk County Agricultural High School, we have one, move approval of the notice of appointment of Kurt Buckman of Rentham as the animal science foreperson, replacing Wendy Cameron at the rate stated and effective 3/27/25. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
It is a vote.
And that concludes number 8.
How about payroll expense warrants?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move approval of the following for a warrant list of 3/26/25. First of all, item 25-38, payroll of the county, move the sum $146,314.23. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It is a vote. Next.
Second, for the expense of the county, item 03/04/25, move the sum $572,762.67. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
It is a vote. Next.
And at the school, I move approval of the expense under line item 25-09A, the sum $342,935.19. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
That's all we had.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That concludes the payroll and expense warrants for approval. Number 10, fiscal year proposed commission's budget for consideration and possible vote. Director Cronin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'd like to hand you a copy of the proposed FY26 budget and a slide deck that I will get to momentarily. Commissioners.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to have John go over this, and he has a slide presentation, which is on top.
Oh, I'm sorry, that one's mine.
That one's yours, huh? Don't give me that one.
Slide deck.
Okay, thank you.
Peter.
Okay, for your information, we're looking at a fiscal year 2026 proposed Norfolk County operating budget for fiscal year 26, as I said, dated today, March 26, 2025, as well as the presentation verbalizing, I guess, the proposed fiscal 26 Norfolk County budget present to the county commissioners, John Cronin, Executive Secretary, Executive Director, as well as
Chief Photo Washer.
You're moving up.
Take it. Thank you, Mr.
You
Chairman.
never know.
Commissioners, I'm going
Thank
to
you,
start.
John.
Thank you. We're going to start with the slide deck first, and then we'll move to the budget itself. We won't go line by line, but as you may know in the past, I use callouts, and we'll go through the budget with the callouts to highlight the areas of interest and, of course, accept any questions that you may have.
Good.
So on the slide deck, Bill, if you would go to the agenda. There are several areas I'm going to cover. Briefly, this is about 10 or 12 slides. I'm going to give you an overall picture of the FY26 budget, a revenue view, where we stand with overall revenue compared to last year. The details, to some extent, within each of the budgets that are nuanced. I'm going to couple it with a capital view because I think there's something that the commissioners need to see, not just in FY26, but the view ahead from a capital perspective, how things are playing out. And then finally, the view ahead, which is the last item, and I think it's the most important. So we'll start with the overview on slide 3, Bill. The proposed FY26 budget is $37,824,798.34. Remarkably, this increases spending by only $20,410 from last year. Because we had two large sets of offsetting costs and revenues, the largest areas of reduction came in contributory retirement contribution, almost $900,000. We reduced legal services for next year. And 6 departments overall are coming in below FY25 funding levels for a variety of reasons, but the aggregate is $327,000 in savings. The proposed budget funds separate salary reserves for FY26 to offset the costs that are expected with looming collective bargaining that will probably come in sometime in early FY26. So it's something we do all the time. It's a separate account. We'll draw on it once the agreements are reached, and we'll do our transfers sometime in September, October, or December as time dictates. Finally, this budget also includes funding for a 6.75 increase in healthcare costs. It's a lot by any measure, but it is remarkably low compared to market healthcare increases that many of the communities in Eastern Massachusetts are facing through their other carriers. Mayflower's done an exceptional job flattening out these increases that come from time to time by plan design. So we're, I guess, happy with 6.75 because some communities are looking at 8, 9, 10, 12, 14% increases. So we're in a better place than most.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
I should know the answer, but I don't. Is this 6.75, is this a 1-year increase?
It
We
is.
deal with this every year,
We do.
and it's fixed, of course.
It is. It's voted upon in March by the
Okay.
board at Mayflower.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Slide 4, Bill. So when we get to the revenue picture, and we start looking at sort of the offsets, the FY26 projection includes increases based on market activity. So deeds, excise, and transaction fees from the registry, those are large areas of revenue that we rely on to balance our budget. And we see some trends in FY25 that are worth moving into FY26. So correspondingly, for each revenue source, we're increasing them by that amount of money. We're very comfortable we'll be able to achieve those next fiscal year. Interest earnings, we are collecting interest on the so-called Quincy District Court money that sits in your capital fund. So we're going to use that interest to offset expenses this year. Weights and measures are expected to grow in FY26, and so we're looking to collect more revenue. And then finally, the Aggie is increasing revenue by $393,000 to offset their expenses. On the other side of the ledger, we see some reductions. The commissioners may know when you sold Quincy District Court in July of 23, which was fiscal 24, we were on the clock. The state provides you reimbursement for those expenses, usually 12 to 18 months in arrears. So we continue to receive the lease payments for Quincy into FY25, but it ends in FY25. We're cutting out $300,000 in lease revenue from the state because we no longer under a lease. We still collect money from the state under a different vehicle, a rental agreement. That's about $683,000. So that's a result of not owning Quincy any longer. That's the drop. We are drawing less money from ARPA interest in FY26, which I think is a tremendous development. We're drawing almost over 250,000 less than we did last year, which is great. The sheriff MOE per the DOE schedule dropped $780,000. That's calculation by the state. But our overall revenue from FY25 is down $266,000. So we see some changes structurally, but everything seems to be in sync. There's not anything damaging going on. We don't see a tumbling of registry revenue, for example. We don't see extraordinarily high and non-discretionary spending peaking. Things are kind of in balance, and this reflects that.
Can I ask a question?
Please, yeah.
If I could, Mr. Chairman. So the revenue is down 266, but all those other things are down as well. So they count as decreases in terms of on our budget, right?
Yep. And then we offset them with the increases on the left side.
Okay, I see. Okay, all right. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Just give you a pulse of how things are moving on the revenue side, Commissioner. And not everything's stable every year. There's always going to be some modifications. But clearly the upper left corner of those deeds and transaction fees, those are drivers. That's a significant amount of money that is, I'm not going to say, we can't say volatile, but it moves every year depending on the transaction and activity of the registry. So you have to constantly keep an eye on it. All right, slide 5, Bill. So the details. Following the submittal of the department budget request, the county's public viewing version was deficient by $2.7 million. You know this happens every year. We receive the budget, we post the numbers, we put it up for public viewing. People can give you feedback. That deficiency is our starting point. It's how we view what the department's asked you for versus what our available resources are. And continuing on our path of annually improving your budget and its appearance for that kind of public input, we added some features, which you'll see in a moment, that we think begin to move the budget more towards a relatable, transactional, and transparent document. We'll get into those in a minute, but we're always striving for GFOA standards. We're doing it incrementally and at no cost. Our fiscal team began reviewing all the submissions following the department head's presentations to you for savings and payroll accuracy. We went through a total of 7 table reads over a period of 4 weeks. The team developed sort of a tendency to look at every kind of cost on every line item based on prior year spending, market trends, utilities, and then finally the payroll, which is Shell's world. A lot of work goes into analyzing every single employee's payroll line, their steps, and so forth. So it went through quite a few lines of review and analysis. The commissioners heard from the department heads. Almost all of them had requests for hiring and expansion. This budget does not support any new hiring proposals. They were all removed due to insufficient revenue to support expansion. FY26 reflects the first year without revenue to offset the QDC expenses. I mentioned that earlier, but we're still collecting rent, $683,000. That's part of our revenue bucket. Page 6, Bill. So looking at the budgets in kind of an aggregate here, the Wallace Recreational Facility, we've modified the maintenance staff to 40 hours per week at the request of the superintendent. And the cost of that is offset by the salary savings from the Golf Pro. As you may know, the old Golf Pro left, the new Golf Pro came in. We saw a favorability And so in the aggregate, the Wallace Recreational Facility is actually below last year's budget because of that savings. The maintenance department, we are still carrying 5 unfunded vacancies to manage the positions associated with the Quincy District Court if and when closure is announced. This is something we've done. This will be the 3rd year in a row, I believe, in conjunction with ASME. We want to ensure that when the state moves to close Quincy District Court, it effectively means our relationship ends. We have no idea when it's happening. We've been through various conversations with the state about what their plans are. I believe it's sufficient to say they're frustrated. They haven't found a solution almost 2 years later. But when it happens, we want to be able to have funded positions for staff to slide into so we avoid layoffs. So it's part of our dialogue with ASME to ensure there's no harm. The Treasury, the Treasurer requested to move 1 full-time employee from 0.8 to full-time, and also to fund an $8,000 contract to conduct a transitional activity review of operations and roles within the office and make a recommendation to the Treasurer. Much of that increase was offset by the loss of temporary salaries within his budget. Finally, the Registry of Deeds requested $3.313 million due to projected FY25 spending and mandate guidance. The appropriation is recommended at $2.928359. To get to that figure, 3 unfilled vacant positions within the registry were removed, and miscellaneous non-salary line items were also reduced to fit for this number. Bill, page 7.
Quick question,
Please, yeah.
if I could, real quick. How's that number compared to, it had to be the same number then, right? Could we level fund everything?
Could you,
The registry number of 2928359, how's that compare to fiscal 25?
it's down.
Oh, it's down.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Okay,
Yep.
all right.
Page 7, Bill, thank you. So now we're starting to move towards the bigger picture, commissioners. This is your capital and stabilization view. I'm leaning into where things are heading here. But I want to show you on the left that as a result of following deeds at revenue, the county did not fund a capital plan in FY25. The county did fund, however, $2.5 million in ARPA projects that included capital style projects for $300,000 Wollaston Recreational Facility court improvements, $152,000 in facility equipment for the Aggie, the course, and maintenance, $225,000 for the Kemp Hall HVAC at the Aggie. We're doing upgrades for HVAC at 3 of our courts through maintenance, and of course, the large maintenance project of $800,000 for the Dedham District Court Building Management System, which is currently underway and expected to be completed this spring. So we're very active in capital space. We're just using a different bucket of money. So the investments towards your assets continue. In FY26, the outlook will be determined by the amount of surplus that, if there is any, that the county realizes after FY25 closes. And I think you know that's in July. So we'll talk about this in September. And if there's something there, we can do it. We'll come see you about it. All right.
Yep.
Page 8, Phil. Now looking at your reserves, you have 2 primary reserves. You have a capital improvement fund and a capital stabilization fund. Your capital improvement fund was created in 2023 when you received the $10.4 million in sale from the Quincy District Court. That money has been drawn upon already to fund a $2 million cost for the Dedham Superior Court HVAC project. We have collected some interest associated with that, so the balance shows as it is now. So that's your capital improvement fund. On the right side is your stabilization. Over the years, the stabilization fund has been used for a variety of reasons. Prior to me coming here, I believe there was some draw on it. Back in 2022, I think, 2023, we deposited large sums of our large surplus at that time into this fund. I'm pleased to tell the commissioners that $6.5 million is a healthy stabilization fund. My view of the stabilization is it should be seen and not used. Try to avoid the use of it at all costs by controlling your costs and your bottom line. It's there for a rainy day. Don't use it to offset normal operational activities. You should be using it to stem any kinds of whole-scale problems that develop as a result of structural issues. So that's my view of stabilization. Now we kind of take a turn into slide 9. Thank you, Bill. To give the commission as an overall report, the county's financial position is very stable. You maintain a stabilization fund balance that provides for 17% of your operating needs. That's pretty good. Our goal, according to the Abrahams Group, is to reach a maximum of 20% of your reserve to cover operating needs. Hopefully, when revenues tick up someday, we'll be able to put more money into the stabilization and trend towards that 20%. It's a good number. Your capital improvement fund is recommended for use of capital improvements to courts only, as expected funds will be replenished through the lease agreement terms with the Commonwealth. These funds can allow the county to attend to large-scale projects without borrowing costs. Ultimately, the decision of what to do with the capital improvement fund is the commissioners, followed by the advisory board. However, it is my strong recommendation to use it for the courts only. The county will also need larger capital investments in the next several years. We are, as Commissioner Shea just mentioned, looking at the $2 million plus cost of irrigation at the golf course. It looms. Our irrigation system is old, and for that reason, it needs replacing, but it works. So it's something we'll keep an eye on in our future capital needs. But should the county realize rising deeds excise surplus, and that's inevitable, we'll have to fund them in the future for things like the irrigation system. Slide 10, Bill. The county's operational budget will continue to receive pressure from the projected costs of paying off the Norfolk County retirement liability. The Retirement Board and PARAC are committed to resolving the county retirement system liability by FY32, much sooner than this mandated 2040 guidelines set by PARAC. To this end, the Retirement Board changed the basis of calculation method to actuarial based in FY23. And the commissioners may recall there was a bump up in our contribution. But now the Retirement Board is positioning to attach additional risk and inflation factors to the remaining liability payment schedule. Contributions are expected to rise. Bill, I'd ask you to go to slide 11, please. Commissioners, I hope you can see this okay. Yeah, okay.
I can.
This is an important view of your world over the next several years, and it really drives where this budget goes. The county's contributory retirement cost has risen steadily from $2.1 million in FY18 to $3.8 in FY25. That money's coming from your base budget. So the projection ahead is something you should be aware of, and I just wanted to show you. If you look at the grid that's captured, those figures are currently known to be erroneous. They were built upon an actuarial vote taken by the Retirement Board in December that we now understand was flawed.
Oh.
We expect those values to go down by a minimum of $1 million a year. But that doesn't elude the fact that if you look at some of the trends, and I'm not going to call them out as true, if we stuck with a $3 million-ish payment between now and FY32, you should be okay. But if that value starts to peak to 3.5 or 4 million, you're suddenly starting to reach into space on your revenue where you might have to start looking at stabilization to balance. So the next 5 to 6 years for the county are critical. This is very important to see because this is a cost that's an obligation you must pay, and it's a commitment that does have a sunset. If you look on the right side, FY33, FY34, and FY35, the costs drop off the cliff dramatically, which means you get a windfall. So at that time, the county will be well positioned to handle whether it's capital needs or expansion of programs and services. It's just you have to wait to get there because this obligation will be primary before you really receive any relief. But it's substantial relief, and some would say it might be worth waiting for. But it's a big issue, and it's really going to be prominent in the budget planning for the next 5 years. Slide 12, Bill. So this annual contribution has consumed larger and larger portions of the county's discretionary spending to the extent that the county can no longer expect its natural reversion of $1 million annually to fund capital projects. The county must embrace a fiscal policy of minimal to no growth until FY32, when this obligation begins to be paid off, and operational budget capacity emerges. The county should plan to use any of the spike in revenue opportunities that may be driven by economic conditions that yield higher than expected returns to handle these capital needs. Certainly, commissioners, if you look at the history of deeds, excise, and transaction fees, it looks like a wave on a bar chart. We are currently in a trough. We expect it to recover. We see some modest increases coming this year into next year. Those opportunities will give you positions for capital budgets as they arise. But I want to say we're being choked by our contributory allowance, which is blocking a lot of your flexible discretionary spending. The county should utilize the capital improvement fund exclusively for court-related capital needs. And then finally, it is my proposal, and I left a message with the superintendent today. He wholeheartedly and full-throatedly agrees with my last bullet request. The county should collaborate with the agricultural high school to develop a capital funding plan that includes joint contributions to the school's capital fund as each party realizes available funds each year. This fund plan mission should target a sum of funds that will be needed ultimately to replace the most vulnerable building while the school pays off its existing MSB loans. So what I'm trying to say is I think we need to enjoin the schools in a planned agreement to use our surplus when we have them and the school surplus to go into the school's capital improvement plan for ultimately facility improvements for their assets. Again, the superintendent fully supports that. Slide 13, Bill. Finally, commissioners, this proposed budget is balanced. It's sustainable. As long as we don't grow too much, the county has strong reserves for operational and capital needs, but must use both sparingly and as intended to manage the next 5 to 6 fiscal years and the economic peaks and valleys that will follow. The county's use of ARPA interest will allow for revenue offset for the next 3 to 5 years if used sparingly. And thus it avoids using any use of stabilization funds. The county's use of ARPA project funding also allows for asset infrastructure investment and project activity at least through the end of December 2026. That concludes the PowerPoint presentation, Mr. Chairman. If you'd like, I'll jump into the budget and we'll go through the callouts.
Yes, commissioners, of course, we had just heard the PowerPoint presentation. This is by and large what we'll see at the advisory board.
Correct.
Correct. Next is the breakdown
Of the budget.
of the fiscal year 2026 budget. It's 87.
Okay, Bill, if you could
Web
pull that up,
pages.
please. Again, commissioners, I'm happy to answer any questions on any line item, but I did target the callouts, the areas of interest. Okay, we'll go right
Okay.
to those, and let Bill know what page to go to. So this is your proposed FY26 operating budget. Following table contents on page 3, there are a number of callouts. This is your revenue page. We've already spoken about some of these callouts, but I just wanted to mention that the ARPA interest was over $940,000 in FY25. We're drawing significantly less. That's a good thing. We're drawing less and less on that balance, which as of today is about $2 million after this draw. The $800,000 that we collect in miscellaneous receipts includes the rent we're receiving from Quincy. The total projected on-school revenue is down $295,000 from last year. Also, towards the bottom, you'll note the school's revenue is projected at $13.9 million, which is up just under $400,000 from last year. And our net spending overall, as I mentioned, is $20,400 above last year's number. It's kind of remarkable. The next page, for the first time, we're publishing within the budget, for transparency reasons, the calculated indirect cost sheet. In the past, these were sent directly to the schools, the register and so forth. We're just publishing it now for everybody to see. It's integral to the budget. And these proposed numbers are based upon metrics and callouts that were developed by my predecessors. They're always open for dialogue. And Mr. Wallace and I have had some conversations about talking about some of these numbers. They will likely be tweaked going forward because some of them are estimates, but that's the nature of indirect cost estimates. Okay. But now we're placing it within the document. The next page is you'll start to see a lot of the same things we incorporated last year. This is an org chart that shows the overall structure of Norfolk County government. We've updated the planned FTE by department. You can see the loss of 2 positions in an net aggregate from 216 down to 214. Page 6, showing again the reflected increase for healthcare costs of 6.75 and the drop in the county's contribution of over $850,000. It's close to the 900. Page 7. I'm reducing legal costs in FY 26 as we anticipate less and less activity on the labor front as we negotiate contracts. We won't be doing that all year long. And we're hoping that the lawsuit with the Registry of Deeds is settled early in FY 26, if not beforehand. So we see some savings opportunity there. Took it. The next page, Bill, I'd like you to go to is page 15, Bill. Just a call out to show that we're calculating an increase in Medicare costs of $29,000. That's a percentage of your overall payroll costs. Page 16, again, is IVID. We're tracking the legal costs here. We've already covered that. Bill, the next page I'd like you to go to is page 26. You're going to see here that this is the salary page for the golf course. There are 3 staff that had been previously working 37.5 hours. The director would like to bring them up, the superintendent up to 40 hours per week, get more work during the golf season hours. The cost of that 40-hour adjustment was picked up by the salary savings on the golf pro, as I previously mentioned. So you can see overall the golf course net is just slightly above last year. Page 41. Yes, sir.
To repeat that again.
Okay.
The difference between 37 to 40,
Yes.
and why is that? And I just,
So the superintendent asked that he move the golf maintenance workers to 40 hours per week beginning July 1st. We'll be getting more hours per week productivity from them because they were previously at 37.5. The cost of bringing them up to that level is offset by the lower salary of the golf pro.
and all overtime costs comes after a 40-hour employee.
That's right.
Works a
Yep.
week. Okay,
That's the federal law.
All right.
Yep.
thank you.
The next page, Bill, is page 41, technology. So Sam did a great job. They all did a great job. Sam saw some savings, but we also want to call out that we're going to keep tracking costs associated with IT broken up between the registry and non-Norfolk County. We began that when we consolidated several years ago. It's working quite well, so we were able to identify what you spend on each enterprise. So we're going to continue that. Page 47, Bill, which is the Treasury. This page shows the $8,000 miscellaneous contractual services I mentioned to conduct a transitional activity report to assess the operations and roles of the office. The treasurer, when he was before you, had made this request, and it's funded there. These are offset by his reduction and elimination of all temporary salaries. Just 2 more, commissioners. Registry of Deeds, page 66. Previous page, Bill. Page 66. Thank you. So in this area, the registry, as we've done each year, we take a snapshot. I believe this was the February 28th payroll. February 28th spending. Could be wrong. I'll check with Phil on that. We targeted 1.904 expended. We take that value, we extrapolate it out through the end of June, and we come up with a number of $2,856,936. We apply a 2.5% increase as required by the mandate to arrive at a target of $2,928,359. The registry had requested 3.313 in his budget, so we had to modify his budget by over $385,000. Commissioner Stady, you asked what his budget was last year. It was $3.152 million, as you can see on that page you're writing on. It's right there in the grand total line. So the difference is approximately, you can do the math, it's just under $200,000. If you go to the next page, Bill, which I think is salary page, the registry had reported 3 positions that were vacant. No employees were in them. One was the non-union position of Director of Support Services. That was removed. Each of the 3 I removed are in the flesh-colored shading on the page in front of you. The second is a head clerk position that was vacant. And the third is a principal clerk that was vacant.
What page is that? I'm sorry.
It's 67. That's it.
Oh, I see the color. Okay, yeah, I didn't see it.
Okay.
Yep.
So there are two colors, commissioners, just for your distinction. The flesh colored are FY26 recommendations. The green show the cuts that came in last fiscal year. They were brought over by the register. They were not funded, but I'm just carrying them to show you last year. Similarly, we reduced 4 positions because of lack of funding, and they were removed from the budget. This year, we're planning 3 more. Those are the ones in the flesh color. Okay, that's the difference. That concludes the call out and distinctions and the review of the budget. Commissioners, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Commissioners.
Well, first, I'd say a very thorough job. Excellent,
Absolutely.
excellent presentation.
I think, is this the 4th year we've generally used this
Yeah,
format?
just a great job.
Yes.
I want to go back. I'm going to leave this for a minute. And go back to that.
PowerPoint?
Yeah, and I said it's not germane to next year, but you were forecasting, like you were saying. So now
Things are starting to come into focus.
But you were saying at 2030 and 31, 32.
Yeah.
God help us if we're all still around. But you said it drops down. My question would be, let's say we aren't the commission, the future board, whatever. Wouldn't at that point, though, the tipping point, say fiscal 28, 29,
Mhm.
which could be something we'd be dealing with, wouldn't that behoove you to use stabilization? I know you don't want to, you have a sacrosanct, but wouldn't you move it then to kind of soften the blow with the thought that, as you said, the future looks good, and with that drop off, you could then replenish stabilization? I mean, would that be something, it's just speculative. It's not on the table, but I mean, I have stabilization in my town, and it's a different vernacular. I know that. Local stabilization isn't the same as county stabilization, but it's still kind of the intent is it's a reserve. It's a reserve. And you use reserves, for a rainy day. We have a problem. So if you're at that tipping point, fiscal 27, 28, 29, I saw the numbers. They're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There may not be enough revenue. Something got to give. So,
Right. Right. The answer is yes, you can, and you should. But my recommendation is if you're looking at that picture, it would be financially ill-advised to start planning for expansion towards FY32. If you run into a situation where those revenues that are reliable, that are baked in, and those start to fail, and you haven't grown your operations, but you need to maintain what you have, stabilization is the answer, right? That's when you use it for. On the other hand, if the commissioners at that time in 28, 29, 30 are going, yeah, we got money coming, so we're going to start baking in some positions, we want to grow some programs, you might be looking at a problem there because you can't predict that those numbers, those revenues will be there, Commissioner Stady, until they are. That's not advisable. So stabilization may be used to rescue you, right, in short-term, one-time events. My training is keep it dry. You do have ARPA interest, right? We've planned that as a sort of front-end loaded stabilization,
which is good.
and we're drawing on it meagerly to get these budgets through until the promised land arrives. With the hope you don't have to, but your answer is yes. You may use it.
Good point.
But it's really strategically how the county wants to envision the
And we
growth
may-
into that space.
We may also generate additional revenues too.
Of
from other
course.
things, too, but
That's right.
Just hypothetical. Fine, fiscal 26 is clear as a bell. I was just looking at that down the road.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
important that we do our best with financial forecasting. It's a struggle with the county because nobody has the economic lens to know how the basic revenue elements of our budget are going to function in the next 5 years. It's
Yeah.
hard enough to picture what it's going to look like in 6 months.
So second question, I think it's on point for you, Mr. Chairman. In view of the fact that we've just got a great budget presentation, but we see the problem we've got, would it make sense to provide additional information through Bill or somebody to our legislative liaison to get that bill that we're trying to get maybe pushed a little further? You know what I'm saying? As a
Sure.
group, because we're tight for revenue, we got documentation to show it, and we've got a great forecast how it looks. That would behoove them maybe to look a second look at our, that bill, to try to help us out. That would give us additional revenue.
Yeah, I mean, the argument
No.
could be made the additional revenue really rescues your capital plan because capital needs are always going to be great. You're asset rich,
Yeah.
but you'll never have enough money to take care of things, especially if the current situation stays the same.
It was actually interesting that John Martin, it's related, got a letter from Representative Arena DeRosa. And basically, I don't know if you caught that, but basically it said it had to do with the policy of the lottery. But he said the solution is to have more building space to have more students. But we can't have more students at the Aggie if we don't have more buildings, and we're kind of stuck there right now.
Right, we
So,
gotta build them out.
right, so we need the revenue there, you know? All right, the third thing would be, what effect, if any, is there going to be an effect when you're taking away positions? These aren't people, these are positions.
Correct.
Okay, so okay,
They're vacant.
I'm thinking about the effect, because that the registry generates our revenue. We don't want to dampen that.
Mhm.
So, but those are positions, not people. Okay, all right. That's all I had.
I'm all set,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'm always talking about budgeting being an ongoing process. We're at the end
Hmm.
or nearing the end of the ongoing now. There is outside approval needed. This goes to the advisory board, et cetera. So is there, yeah, I would say that we need a vote today to forward this budget to go to the next step, which is our advisory board and, everyone else. Send it out to department heads and, if you work here today, you're working here July 2nd.
When's the advisory board, man?
April 16th.
It's only a month away, less, it's 3 weeks away. And, it's business as usual. Hopefully. I mean, there's no other reason to hold this up, is there? In your mind, I'm sure.
No, a
We'll
year
talk to the
ago,
Commissioners.
yeah, a year ago, I presented the budget on March 27th and you voted on it that day. We will take the budget and documentation that's presented today following this meeting, put it up on the website so the department heads and everyone else can see it. We'll make it available certainly to the advisory board well ahead of their meeting on the 16th so that they can familiarize themselves with it as well.
So politely, I'll ask, we had several department heads.
6, yeah.
Engineering, Sam and a few others look for increases to their budget. They were looking for more staff.
Correct.
So were they notified?
I believe they're all taken out.
Were they told of this? Are they aware of this? Or
Not directly, no.
No,
No,
okay,
I report to you folks, so
okay. So they'll
we
find
make
out
the
by,
decisions.
all right, they'll find out for the.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Commissioners, any comments? As
You want
usual,
to get this voted today?
I don't see why not. I mean, if you want to wait, but next week is not a good week for you. So, right.
So, and we're looking at, because of that, okay. All
I
right,
mean,
well, yeah,
I go back to my first year here, second year here, when we went all through this and then realized we made $1 million mistake. I don't think you remember that. You may have
No.
heard about it when you're on the advisory board and, I mean, if anything like that should happen, it comes right back and
yeah.
we have to straighten it all out, but
All right. So I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2026 Norfolk County budget in a total amount of $37,824,798.34 as presented
as
by
presented.
our county director.
I'll second the motion for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a comment to make. before you take-
Second motion for discussion. What's your discussion, Commissioner?
So this vote incorporates the budget from the Aggie.
Right.
And the trustees, and we're part of the trustees, and the trustees voted on the Aggie budget the other night, and that's part of this budget.
Mhm.
And so I just wanted to explain to you, because I voted against the Aggie budget, I have no problem with the county portion of the budget. Because I voted against the Aggie budget, I'm going to abstain from this particular vote, because if I vote it now,
That's right.
I've reversed my vote from the other night.
Okay.
Makes sense.
What's your point, John?
Just to let the commissioners know, the school's budget is off from the vote you took last week by $206,000. Mr. Wallace is here. I gave him an indirect cost sheet last week when it became available as a result of the Mayflower vote. The number he used in your vote was an estimate. These are the actuals. So following, I think, your April 9th meeting as trustees, you'll probably have to take another vote reflecting the actuals. But the actuals are here today. So this is the right number.
Did it go up or go down?
It went down.
Oh, okay. We'll deal with that on April 19th.
Yeah.
There you go.
That is all. Thanks.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
If-
I agree. I think we should push it along. We're sticking by our calendar and, we're gonna be with the advisory board soon and we'll go from there. Okay, motion made and seconded to accept the Norfolk County, proposed Norfolk County budget presented on March 26, 2025, the fiscal year budget in the amount of $37,824,798.34 as presented by the county director. All in favor? Aye. It's 2-0.
And I'll abstain.
And one abstention. That's correct. All right, thank you. I
Thank you.
write final on these because every time we get a new one, I've given the wrong one out, but as of now, this is it. Okay, number 11, report from the procurement department regarding a bid opening and/or contract award. Maureen, come on in.
Hello, all.
Good afternoon. What do we have this week?
We have a position that is to be filled temporarily between April, we'll call it, and June, the end of June. A temporary plumber. We're having trouble apparently finding a full-time plumber, and that's advertised.
Okay, and John, we're gonna.
One day a week.
So we're gonna bring our retired plumber back one day a week
Yes,
till we find a plumber.
yes.
As of now, it's still June 1st, and then go from there. What do you say there, commissioners?
I move approval.
Okay,
It's motion, I guess would be in order to approve the temporary hire of an on-call plumber for 1 day per week at the rate stated through June 30, 2025 to perform work necessary at Norfolk County buildings and if needed in an emergency to serve, 1 day of work that week.
Second.
okay. I don't know if we want to use the word on-call, because we do have an on-call plumber too,
Yeah.
for the middle of the night or something over his head.
Right.
It's a contract, that's a yearly contract.
Yeah.
I think it's I know it's a local
Temporary
company.
employment contract.
Okay, this is a temporary employee contract. Okay, I have no problem with that.
Thank you.
Motion made and seconded to hire on a temporary contract,
I'll sign.
a plumber, 1 day per week from April to June 30th of 2025, till the new plumber's on board. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, Maureen, anything else?
That is all for now.
Go
All right.
find them.
Thank you.
We're still looking for a plumber, by the way, commissioners.
Okay.
12, report of the county director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, and for those listening, department heads will be receiving later this week on Friday the annual use-lose report. Department heads are encouraged to share this information with their employees so that they may tend to any potential loss of vacation or personal time before the end of the fiscal year, according to the employee handbook and related collective bargaining agreements. That information will be released, and if anybody has any questions, just give our HR people a call. A reminder to those so designated, if you are, ethics filing is required by May 1st this year. Just a friendly reminder.
I did mine last week.
Next week, the commissioners will receive, upon invitation, I presume, Register of Deeds, who has sent you a request to supplement his FY25 budget. He'll be here to speak with you about his request. The following week, which is April 9th, I will present to you the proposed April/final supplemental request for the county in anticipation of the advisory board meeting the following week. So just in sequence, a couple of sub-issues coming up following today. I'm pleased to let the commissioners know our FY24 audit is approaching it's a critical end phase. By tomorrow, we should have our financials completed and handed over to our financial advisors for compliance. They will proceed with the final elements of the audit and hope to have it done by the end of May 2025. Debt of Superior Court. Earlier, I spoke about the capital issue and how it plays with the capital improvement fund. You funded a $2 million improvement to the HVAC system of the Superior Court. Just a brief update on that project. It is large. It is a very significant project. I got great news yesterday from the architect. We're expecting to have full 90% drawings completed by April 4th. By April 22nd, we'll be looking for a decision on potentially moving to bid based on the funding estimates that'll be provided to us. And the bid could be up by mid-May. conceivably the permit to proceed, if everything goes according to plan, by June. So then we're off to the races on a project, as I mentioned earlier, that will easily take us into 2026. It's a significant project. But the architect was pleased to tell me that they were looking at an area to place a lot of the condensers and what we commonly know as rooftop units in areas within the Dedham Superior Court attic, which, as you can imagine, looks like an 1847 attic. But they found a preferred space, much more accessible, on the back end facing Pearl Street, that they think will be even better and will reduce our cost dramatically. So it's a big development. They did a nice job engineering it. We'll look forward to seeing what the bid process does for us over the next 4 months. Okay. March 31st, earlier I mentioned that ARPA has been paying for a lot of facility improvements at the Aggie, our maintenance department, and the golf course. The golf course wanted a replacement to their Ford 350. That vehicle was ordered this winter. It's being delivered Monday. So Carl will be happy to get that. Let's see. And just a quick reminder, as the chairman started the meeting, he read the remote participation language that, as you know, currently expires March 31st, 2025. A bill from the House and the Senate has made its way to the governor's desk. I believe it was sent on Friday. It sits. So as soon as, and if she signs it, we'll alert you and we'll be back in business, I believe, until March of 2027 is the language currently structured.
I thought it was June.
Yeah, it's June 30th.
June, okay.
June
That's the
30th, yeah.
proposed language?
Yeah, it goes June
Of
30th.
27.
So, yeah,
2 years
good enough.
plus.
Yeah, fine. We'll cross that
So we'll
bridge.
let you know when we hear or see smoke from the State House. White smoke, right, Richard? That is all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Quick question.
Commissioner
Who
Stady.
you, to the county director, electric charging stations. Are you meeting with him next week? Or is it?
I can't recall if I'm meeting. I checked with our procurement office today. I told him I needed to get him the electrical bills for each location.
Right,
The work to get that took on more dimensions than what was needed. I spoke to Maureen this morning. I said, I need this today. So
okay.
she has what I asked for, and I will be getting it to Mr. McWillan, hopefully by the close of business.
He's been in touch with you and John as far as lining up buildings or.
Correct. There was a
Right.
site visit planned for one of the locations. I think it was Rentham for, yes, someday next week. Is it
Okay.
April 2nd? I can't remember off the top of my head. But I also owe him the electric bill so he can do his analysis.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Okay. I'm sorry, anything else?
No, sir.
Any other questions for John?
Mhm.
Number 13, emergency topics that Chair did not reasonably anticipate to be discussed. I have none. We have a regular scheduled meeting next week. And a reminder, we're still in mourning for Sergeant Scott.
I'm afraid I forget the officer's name. Yes.
Is it Sessions? I'm sorry, from the Randolph Police Department.
Mhm.
Sherman, Scott Sherman.
Yes.
Sergeant in the Randolph Police Department lost his wife last Sunday, and he's being buried this week, so. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn, Mr. Chairman, at 2:02.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.